Today our topic of discussion is fibroids. So let's look at this topic. So what are the fibroids? Actually these are the benign smooth muscle tumors of the uterus and most common gynecological tumor in females. So we see there are various types of fibroids. So this is fundal subserosal fibroid. This is pedunculated submucosal. This is also submucosal. This is subserosal. This is intramural. And if we see the picture over here, this is pedunculated and this is intramural. This fibroid in the cavity of the uterus. This is intracavitary. This is submucous and this is subserous. So the fibroid, this subserous fibroid, this is most commonly associated with fibroid torians. And the submucosal fibroid, it is associated with more and heavy menstrual bleeding. So let's see what is the definition. It is a benign tumor of smooth muscles of uterus, also called as leiomyoma. So fibroid is also called as leiomyoma. It is the most common pelvic tract tumor. So what is the epidemiology? It is diagnosed in approximately 40 to 50% of premenopausal women more than 35 years of age. It is more common in African Americans where they are also larger and occur at an earlier age. It is a common indication for surgery in females. Most of the females undergo surgery due to fibroids. It has a minimal malignant potential of 1 to 1000 and it typically regresses after menopause. Why it regresses after menopause? Because it is an estrogen dependent tumor. So after menopause, when estrogen is no more over there are no menstrual cycle, so it regresses. So it occurs mostly in the reproductive age group because it is estrogen dependent tumor and regress after menopause. So the risk factors and will be more where estrogen exposure is more, in situations where estrogen exposure is more. So in early menarche and late menopause there is more estrogen exposure, so more chance of having fibroid. Nulliparity, because in pregnancy estrogen levels are low, so if a female is nulliparous, so she has more likely to develop fibroid because of no break in the estrogen levels. Obesity, diabetes mellitus, family history, and here the association is with non-smoker because smoking decreases estrogen. So here the non-smoker are is the risk factor and smokers, they are somewhat protective. So what is the pathogenesis? Estrogen stimulates the monoclonal smooth muscle cell proliferation and the progesterone stimulates the production of proteins that inhibit apoptosis. So the protein that inhibits the apoptosis, the progesterone stimulates it, because if normally the the things produced in our body that has cancerous potential, they are mostly subjected to apoptosis, programmed cell death. So if progesterone produces proteins that inhibits this programmed cell death, so there will be increased cellular proliferation of the cells that causes tumor. So degenerative changes when tumor outgrows blood supply. So fibroid can have degenerative changes when the size outgrows the blood supply, and fibroids can degenerate, become calcified also, and can develop sarcomatous component or obtain a parasitic blood supply. So what are the types of fibroids? What are the anatomical classifications? So I have already shown you there were submucosal fibroid. So 50% of the time are submucosal, intramural, subserous, And parasitic fibroids are they that detach themselves from uterus and get blood supply from peritoneum. So what are the clinical features? Majority the patients are asymptomatic and there is incidental finding on ultrasound. Abnormal uterine bleeding is about 30%. Dysmenorrhea, pain with menstruation, heavy menstrual bleeding. Why it causes heavy menstrual bleeding? Because there is increase in endometrium, because there is increased cells in the endometrium and increased shedding of the blood. So pelvic pressure, because there is mass, so there will be pelvic pressure, heaviness, increased abdominal girth, urinary frequency and urgency, acute urinary retention, and this is extremely rare but it is a surgical emergency. Constipation and bloating are rare and it also causes hemorrhoids and varicose veins. So it also causes acute pelvic pain, and acute pelvic pain are due to fibroid degeneration and fibroid torsion. So we see what is fibroid torsion. If there is pedunculated subserosal fibroid, so it is most likely twist around its axis, the twisting of fibroid in its long axis. So what is causes? The after twisting it will occlude the arterial blood supply and there will be ischemic necrosis of the fibroid. So it will cause fibroid torsion. And what is fibroid degeneration? The degeneration is of three types: hyaline degeneration, fatty degeneration, and there is a red degeneration of pregnancy. And what is this red degeneration? There is thrombosis of vein draining the fibroid. So there is congested fibroid. Red fibroid also gives acute abdominal pain, presents like acute abdomen due to ischemic necrosis, and the fibroids, these type of fibroids also grow big in pregnancy, become tender and degenerate. So what is the treatment of the red degeneration of pregnancy? Is conservative. There will be bed rest, strong analgesia, and it settles in 4 to 7 days. Fibroids also causes infertility, recurrent pregnancy loss, pregnancy complications like increased pain, obstructed labor, and difficult C-section. So there should be no weight loss, no lymph node enlargement, no pulmonary mets because it is a benign situation. What we see on examination, because of heavy menstrual bleeding, we see pallor, anemia, but no lymph nodes. On abdominal exam, we see pelvic mass, and on per vaginal exam, pelvic viscera will be heavy. What are the complications? There can be malignant change. It can be changed to leiomyosarcoma, but their risk is 0.1%. Life-threatening hemorrhage, infections in hematological system. There can be polycythemia or iron deficiency anemia. There can be hypoglycemia because the mass puts pressure on pancreas and there will be increased insulin production. So in investigations we see on CBC anemia, and if we do bimanual exam, the most important thing is uterus will be asymmetrically enlarged and usually mobile, because in adenomyosis, the condition in which the endometrial tissue, glands or stroma grow inside the myometrium, in that situation, in adenomyosis, uterus on biomanual exam will be symmetrically enlarged. So in fibroids, it is uterus is asymmetrically enlarged and it is usually mobile, and ultrasound to confirm diagnosis and assess the location of fibroid. Sonohysterograms, these are useful for differentiating endometrial polyps from submucosal fibroids or for accessing the intracavitary growth. In endometrial biopsy, it is done mostly if the patient is more than 40 years of age, and MRI is used for preoperative planning. For example, if patient is to be doing for myomectomy. What is the treatment? If the patient is symptomatic, first of all, if the fibroids, we have diagnosed the patient with the fibroids and we have all the tests supporting that the patient is having fibroid, so treatment is only required when it is rapidly enlarging, heavy menstrual bleeding, metomenorrhagia, intracavitary fibroid, or if so, if the patient is symptomatic when it is rapidly enlarging fibroid, heavy menstrual bleeding, metomenorrhagia, so or the patient is having difficulty in daily activities due to this type of difficulty, so it is symptomatic. And also the patient have problem of fertility, so we will go towards the surgical treatment. The treatment of choice is myomectomy. It can be hysteroscopic, transabdominal, or laparoscopic. Or if the patient is asymptomatic, so conservative therapy or expectant, so it will be monitored by ultrasound, and the patient should be treated for anemia if it is present. So what is conservative approach? It is watch and wait. If it is asymptomatic and fibroid is less than 6 to 8 centimeter or stable in size and not submucosal, so and also the most important point, if the patient is currently pregnant, due to increased risk of bleeding, there should be conservative approach and not surgery is not preferred and not advised. So follow up ultrasound is there if symptoms progress. So what is the medical approach? Antiprostaglandins, tranexamic acid, OCPs or Depo-Provera, GnRH analogs, leprolide often used, and these drugs are often used pre-myomectomy, pre-hysterectomy because they reduce the bleeding. There are some drugs like ulipristal acetate and leuprolide group. What is the ulipristal acetate? It is selective progesterone receptor agonist given 5 milligram daily for 3 months, shown to control menstrual bleeding symptoms and shrink the fibroids. But in this case, patient liver enzymes are done regularly. So if we see ulipristal acetate and leuprolide group, so both have control of bleeding significantly greater, but in leprolide group the control of bleeding was high. There was 47% reduction in the control of bleeding, and in ulipristal there was 20 to 22% in some studies. But in leprolide group we see 40% of patients had moderate to severe hot flashes. But in ulipristal, in 5 milligram dose of ulipristal, patients only had 11% of the patients had moderate to severe hot flashes, and if we gave 10 milligram of ulipristal, so 10% of the patient had hot flashes. So oral ulipristal had a better side effect profile in some studies in the two groups of the people who were given leprolide group or ulipristal group. So what is interventional radiology approach? In this we do uterine artery embolization, in which it helps to shrink the fibroid by 50% at 6 months. It improves heavy bleeding in 90% of patients within 1 to 2 months, but it is not an option in women considering childbearing. So what are the surgical approaches? It is myomectomy, which preserves fertility, hysteroscopic resection of fibroids, and endometrial ablation for abnormal uterine bleeding in submucosal fibroid, hysterectomy, and again avoid operating on fibroids during pregnancy due to high vascularity and potential pregnancy loss. So expectant management is usually best. So we see multiple choice questions. Case number 1, a 42-year-old asymptomatic female, for a routine evaluation on examination, her uterus is irregularly enlarged to the size seen at approximately 8 weeks of gestation. Pelvic ultrasound shows several uterine fibroid tumors measuring less than 5 cm. The patient does not desire future fertility. Which one of the following would be the most appropriate treatment of this patient's condition? The patient does not desire future fertility, and also she is asymptomatic, so the best option is observation, because uterine fibroids, these are most common female reproductive tract tumor, with some evidence suggesting that the cumulative incidence in women aged 25 to 45 is approximately 30%. So symptoms related to fibroids can include menorrhagia, pelvic pain, obstructive symptoms, infertility or pregnancy loss. However, many fibroids are asymptomatic and these are discovered incidentally with expectant management. So being the treatment of choice in this case. And also the risk of malignant leiomyosarcoma is exceedingly small, 0.23% in one study, and there is a risk of side effects or complications from other treatment modalities. For women who are symptomatic, the data is insufficient to allow conclusions to be made about the most appropriate therapy. So surgical options include myomectomy, hysterectomy, uterine artery embolization and myolysis, but data to allow direct comparison is lacking. So with the exception of trials of GnRH agonist therapy as an adjuvant to surgery, there is not enough randomized trial data to support the use of medical therapies, OCPs, NSAIDs in the treatment with symptomatic. So if the patient is asymptomatic and also not desiring fertility, so observation is the best option. What is case number 2? 36-year-old Asian gravida 1 para 1 presents with pain and bleeding due to a larger uterine fibroid confirmed by examination and pelvic ultrasound. The patient requests an effective treatment but wants to preserve her fertility. Now the patient wants to preserve her fertility. Which of the following is the best treatment? So a patient has a larger uterine fibroid which is confirmed by examination and she also wants to preserve her fertility. So here the best option is myomectomy, because in the younger patient who wishes to retain fertility, myomectomy is the surgical treatment of choice in significantly symptomatic uterine fibroids. And GnRH agonist danazol and mifepristone are effective medications for symptomatic uterine fibroids. So hysterectomy is recommended to women who have completed childbearing and have significant symptoms, multiple leiomyomas and a desire for a definitive end to symptomatology. And uterine artery embolization, while effective, may induce menopause or reduce fertility by decreasing ovarian reserves. So it also has been associated with adverse pregnancy outcomes including malpresentation, preterm birth and postpartum hemorrhage. So here myomectomy is the best option. Which is the commonest type of bleeding encountered with uterine leiomyomas? So we all know it is hypermenorrhea. It is hypermenorrhea. Fibroids can cause hypermenorrhea, menorrhagia or menometorrhagia. So a 32-year-old gravida 5 para 4 presents with 8-week history of amenorrhea and suggestive symptoms of pregnancy. Now the patient has suggestive symptoms of pregnancy. Physical exam reveals an irregular enlarged uterus of 16-week size. So uterus is irregularly enlarged. Ultrasound confirms the presence of 8-week viable pregnancy and multiple fibroid uterus. The correct management for this patient is, so she should have expectant management, prudent observation, anticipating profitable vaginal delivery. So we see in pregnancy, we have already discussed, the majority of the fibroids are of no significance and have no effect upon a woman's fertility, her pregnancy or delivery. Some, however, impinge upon or distort the actual cavity, but it is not as common. So sometimes it interferes with the normal progress of pregnancy. Though fibroids tend to grow in size during pregnancy, it is unlikely that they will cause any symptoms. Some pregnant women do experience minor symptoms, particularly pelvic pain and light spotting. So the best option in pregnancy is conservative and expectant, prudent observation, anticipating profitable vaginal delivery. Question number 5. A 35-year-old female is planning a second pregnancy. Now the patient is planning a pregnancy. Her last pregnancy was complicated by placental abruption that was caused by large fibroid tumor of the uterus. Now this is still present. This large fibroid is still present and she is planning a second pregnancy, and in previous pregnancy she had placental abruption caused by this large fibroid. Which one of the following would be the most appropriate treatment for the fibroid tumor? So we have already discussed this is myomectomy. Now question, at the time of her annual exam you find an approximately 10 weeks irregular uterus on an asymptomatic 40-year-old woman. Her last exam was 1 year prior, was normal. So last year she was normal, now she is asymptomatic, and on incidental finding you find irregular uterus. Your next step in the management of this patient is, again she is asymptomatic, and if we have already discussed, if the patient is asymptomatic and there are no symptoms, the fibroid is not rapidly enlarging, there is no menorrhagia, no pelvic pain, so we will do conservative management, ultrasound and re-examination in 6 months. So hope you have understood the topic well. Thank you.